It's a curious situation that often arises. A person decides to distance themselves from someone, and suddenly that seemingly indifferent individual begins to feel a noticeable longing and shows increased attention. Sometimes it seems as if the moment one stops persistently seeking another's approval or presence, something invisible yet incredibly powerful activates in favor of the person who has stepped back. This is by no means a mere coincidence or a whim of capricious fate without a rational explanation. On the contrary, clear and profound psychological reasons lie behind this intriguing phenomenon, and Carl Gustav Jung, one of the greatest pioneers and founders of depth psychology, offers us a strikingly insightful perspective on this enigma of human relationships. According to Jung's deep conviction, a significant portion of human emotional life is subtly governed by powerful unconscious forces. These internal drivers, like invisible threads, meticulously determine every facet of our interactions with others, shaping reactions and perceptions long before they manifest at a conscious level. In other words, even before someone consciously reacts to another's presence or absence, the person is already emitting subtle, almost imperceptible signals that fundamentally influence the other individual's perception. How a person relates to themselves, the level of inner confidence they project outward, and the unique energy they constantly radiate play a truly decisive role in how others react to their appearance or disappearance. This isn't about spoken words, external appearance, or preconceived behavioral strategies. It's something much deeper and more fundamental, an internal vibration that continuously emanates from a person, even if they are unaware of it and don't consciously control it. You can imagine this as an invisible yet palpable magnetic field surrounding each individual. Every thought, every emotion a person carries inevitably reflects in this field, and these echoes subtly influence how others perceive their presence or absence, shaping their unconscious reactions and desires, which we will explore further. Carl Jung, a prominent thinker, extensively discussed the concept of projection, the psyche's inner tendency to unconsciously transfer qualities, feelings, and thoughts that an individual holds deep within themselves onto others. If a person consistently experiences an inner feeling of insecurity, anxiety, or inadequacy, they often unconsciously transmit signals that are immediately picked up by others. This process frequently occurs at a subconscious level. However, when personal self-esteem strengthens, when an individual learns to value and respect themselves without seeking validation from external approval, their energetic field undergoes radical changes. This transformation becomes evident to everyone around them. Among other things, Carl Jung, in his profound research, clearly showed that our individual perception of the world is a direct and undeniable reflection of our inner state. How a person relates to themselves determines not only the nature and depth of their relationships with others, but also how other people perceive them. It is for this reason that some individuals seem to possess a natural, almost hypnotic charm and attraction without making any visible effort. The essence is not in their external beauty or the possession of some secret knowledge. It lies in their high level of self-confidence and genuine authenticity, which instantly creates a strong and sincere connection with people around them. There are individuals whose mere presence, without the slightest effort on their part, instantly captivates the attention of everyone in the room. Such people don't need to speak louder than usual or perform extraordinary acts to be noticed. Their aura simply radiates something powerful: unwavering confidence, deep inner peace, and an undeniable conviction of their own worth. Carl Jung explained this phenomenon by stating that individuals with strong self-esteem have successfully integrated their shadow, meaning they have accepted and assimilated all aspects of their personality, both those they consider bright and acceptable, and those they once rejected or suppressed. Through this, they achieve a degree of authenticity that is not only noticeable to others, but also evokes genuine admiration, without being off-putting. This is especially evident in interpersonal relationships. A man, for example, may not be able to verbally explain why he is attracted to a woman who doesn't seek or beg for his attention. Yet the undeniable truth is that emotional independence possesses a deep, attractive power. This is not about pretense or feigning unavailability or disinterest. The essence lies in building such a rich and fulfilling life for oneself that its completeness doesn't require anyone else's addition. Herein lies the significant difference. When a person actively seeks approval from others, they involuntarily radiate an energy of need or deficit, which others very subtly pick up and perceive. Conversely, when an individual deeply realizes their inner self-sufficiency, they begin to project an energy of wholeness and completeness that becomes truly irresistible to others. But how does one begin to cultivate this genuine, unwavering self-confidence? This entire process starts with one fundamental question addressed to oneself. Do you treat yourself with the same love and respect that you expect and seek to receive from others? Often, people tend to seek affection, attention, and recognition from others, the very expressions of care and approval that they somehow deny themselves. However, the great Carl Jung taught that the deepest and most significant work is that which a person performs within themselves, in their inner world. Before expecting someone else to appreciate their presence or contribution, a person should ask themselves, do I value myself? Before wishing for someone to treat them with due respect, it is necessary to sincerely check whether they themselves show this respect for themselves in their thoughts, in their daily habits, and in how they conduct their inner dialogue. To strengthen one's self-esteem and deepen the connection with one's inner self, it is extremely important to build a self-care regimen that truly nourishes not only the physical body, but also the mental and spiritual state. This doesn't necessarily have to be something complex or elaborate. Small but regular habits that consistently strengthen overall well-being are sufficient. For example, this could be dedicating a few minutes in the morning to calm meditation, writing positive affirmations that affirm one's own worth, or simply tidying oneself up in a way that brings an inner sense of comfort and satisfaction. The most important thing is that every action a person takes contributes to strengthening the perception that they are unconditionally valuable and deserve the very best. Here, it's crucial to note one significant aspect. Affirmations are by no means meaningless phrases. Carl Jung repeatedly emphasized the power of the unconscious and how deeply ingrained inner beliefs shape an individual's external reality. When a person with unwavering faith repeats affirmations like "I am enough," "I deserve love," or "my energy is magnetic," they methodically train their mind to perceive these ideas as an undeniable truth. Gradually, such affirmations integrate into the very essence of their identity, and it is this renewed identity that begins to actively project into the external world. Another equally important component is the need to avoid behavioral patterns that betray neediness or emotional attachment. This is not about feigned indifference, but about developing genuine emotional self-sufficiency, where a person's happiness does not depend on the presence or approval of anyone else. The most enduring and attractive relationships are built on each partner feeling whole and self-sufficient on their own, not relying on the other for their own well-being. Ultimately, this whole concept boils down to a fundamental postulate that Carl Jung tirelessly emphasized in his works. What an individual projects onto others is a mirror reflection of their inner content. If a person wishes others to see them as a valuable person, they must first recognize their own value. If they seek to attract respect and admiration, they should demonstrate similar respect and admiration towards themselves that they expect to receive. When an individual truly grasps this truth and begins to put it into practice, they will find that their dynamics in interacting with others transform in the most natural way. They will cease striving for external visibility, for their aura will eloquently testify to their significance. They will stop chasing attention, as their energy will attract those who are truly aligned with them, and, most importantly, they will stop persevering in the search for external support to achieve wholeness, for they will discover within themselves everything they ever sought externally. It's important to remember, the essence is not about pursuing anyone, begging for attention, or trying to convince another individual of your own attractiveness. The true key lies in a much deeper sphere, in a psychological principle that Carl Jung articulated with exceptional clarity. Genuine attraction arises when a person achieves complete harmony with their inner worth. when a person transforms, beginning to exude unwavering confidence, genuine authenticity, and deep self-love, they no longer need to chase anyone, as suitable individuals almost instinctively feel an irresistible urge to draw closer. Imagine this: deep within each individual pulsates an invisible, energetic field, a kind of intangible vibration that emanates from their inner state and is perceived by others without a single word. This field is formed as a direct consequence of what a person thinks about themselves, what they feel, and what they deeply believe about their own essence. The great Jung, in his works, paid attention to the concept of the collective unconscious, emphasizing how all humanity is interconnected at levels significantly deeper than usually realized. Consequently, what an individual projects into the external world, whether consciously or unconsciously, directly influences how they are perceived by others. When a person feels inner insecurity, experiences anxiety, or is gripped by the fear of losing someone, such a state is reflected in all their manifestations. This manifests in their actions, in non-verbal body signals, in speech intonations, and in their overall manner of interacting with others. Unconsciously, they transmit an invisible message about their own neediness, about a deep need for someone or something, sometimes even about despair. Others pick up this invisible information even if they cannot rationally interpret it or explain the reason for their feeling. On the other hand, when an individual experiences deep self-trust, when they feel their inner wholeness and live from an energy of genuine self-worth and self-love, they radiate an inner glow. This glow naturally attracts other people to them. You can imagine this as a lighthouse, when its self-esteem shines with a bright, steady flame. This light illuminates the space around, and people naturally gravitate towards this radiation of warmth and unwavering confidence. But when the inner light begins to waver, when its existence entirely depends on external nourishment and validation, this glow becomes variable and fragile, and instead of attracting, it only generates doubts and repels. It is here that one of the key lessons concerning interpersonal relationships reveals itself: the undeniable power of personal space. In modern society, where the pace of life rapidly increases, where continuous communication is perceived as an absolute necessity, and technological progress has accustomed us to instant gratification, the idea of providing personal space may seem paradoxical and even counterproductive. Nevertheless, for those who seek to form deep and sincere relationships, the ability to give space is one of the most effective tools available. The renowned psychologist Carl Jung once discussed the process of individuation, a life path that every individual must traverse to achieve a state of a whole, authentic, and self-sufficient personality capable of autonomous existence. In the context of any relationship, this fundamental principle takes on special significance, emphasizing the importance of preserving individuality within a couple. When a person becomes dependent on another to feel inner peace and well-being, when their own happiness is entirely based on a partner's attention or response, they essentially voluntarily give up their inner strength and independence. Therefore, providing personal space in relationships is by no means a trick for manipulation or an attempt to make another person miss you. On the contrary, it is a deep practice of self-love, allowing the individual to focus on their own inner world and significantly strengthen their personal energy. You can imagine this principle using the example of a garden. If a gardener continuously waters a plant without allowing it to absorb the moisture, they do not promote its growth, but rather risk drowning it. Interpersonal relationships function on a similar principle. They vitally need air to breathe, sufficient space for development, and a delicate balance between deep intimacy and necessary independence. By providing such space, a person not only allows the other to breathe more freely and process what is happening, but also creates conditions in which absence can be noticed and the true value of presence can be realized. Moreover, and this is perhaps the most significant, the individual gives themselves the opportunity to reconnect with their inner self, rediscovering their authentic essence. For when this slight detachment occurs, it is not done for the purpose of punishment, manipulation, or demonstrating superiority. It is dictated by a deep understanding that a person's own well-being is not determined by the presence or absence of another, but entirely depends on the quality of their inner relationship with themselves. Now, it is necessary to realize one exceptionally important aspect. Providing personal space does not mean feigning indifference or deliberately neglecting someone's attention in the expectation that the object of attention will take the initiative. Such an approach has nothing to do with cold or pragmatic maneuvers. On the contrary, it is about a true inner metamorphosis, where a person sincerely masters the art of fully enjoying their own leisure and learns to fill themselves with vital energy without feeling dependent on anyone for a sense of their own completeness. If a person ever feels the urge to send a message, check someone's social media profiles, or invent a reason to start a dialogue, they should ask themselves a fundamental question. Does this stem from genuine desire or from a need for external validation of their own worth? Often, an individual's true desire is not for communication itself, but for the feeling of security that they believe a positive reaction will provide. However, the key to understanding is this. Genuine security comes not from the response of others, but solely from the inner conviction that a person cultivates within themselves. When a person slightly distances themselves and allows events to unfold naturally without forcing a specific outcome, they transmit a powerful message both to the other individual and to the entire universe. They trust themselves, they believe in their own worth, they realize their self-sufficiency, and such confidence acquires a truly magnetic attractiveness. When a person consciously gives another space, they should not expect any actions or steps from that person. Instead of waiting, it is wiser to use this time for deep self-care. This is an excellent opportunity to dedicate oneself to activities that bring true pleasure, actively socialize with friends and like-minded people, and fully immerse oneself in pursuits that evoke genuine interest and passion. The great psychologist Carl Jung asserted that when an individual is in harmony with their inner purpose and destiny, their energy level invariably increases. This increased vibration, in turn, becomes a powerful magnet, naturally attracting into a person's life precisely those people and experiences that best align with their path. On the other hand, it should be remembered that excessive attachment and a feeling of neediness represent low vibration energies. When a person desperately seeks attention from others or tries to fill an inner emotional void with someone's presence, they involuntarily radiate a certain energy. Others pick up this energy, often without consciously realizing it. And instead of attracting what is desired, such energy, unfortunately, tends to repel. However, when a person is at peace with themselves, when they truly enjoy their own company and live a rich, full life, they create an incredibly positive, energetic field around themselves. Thanks to this, the right people are naturally attracted to them. This happens not because they actively pursue them or seek their attention, but because their inner light shines so brightly and attractively that it simply cannot be ignored. Furthermore, providing personal space also serves as a valuable tool for deeply understanding how much another person truly values someone's presence in their life. This can be observed when a person is absent. If they truly miss you, they will certainly take some action to show it. If no such reaction follows, then that in itself is a complete answer. However, the most important rule is that one should never allow one's own happiness to depend on the actions or decisions of another individual. Space is a manifestation of deep respect. It is also the basis for unwavering trust. And finally, space is a form of love, not only for the partner, but most importantly, primarily for oneself. And it is then when a person achieves this delicate but vital balance that true miracles begin to happen in relationships. After all, ultimately, the entire universe functions based on vibrational principles. The renowned psychoanalyst Jung taught that human thoughts and emotions do not just exist within us. They generate a special energy that not only affects an individual's inner state, but also actively shapes the reality they then experience. In other words, everything a person radiates into the surrounding world is inevitably attracted back to them. Therefore, it is so important to ask oneself, what energy am I currently emitting? If a person's energy is permeated with fear, anxiety, or an insatiable need for control, they will send a signal to the universe about their neediness and dependence. But if their vibration harmoniously aligns with inner confidence, deep peace, and unconditional self-security, then the universe will invariably respond by bringing into their life precisely what resonates with this powerful and positive energy. When this happens, a person no longer needs to chase anyone, for they understand that everything truly meant for them inevitably comes in its natural course. It is at this moment that a profound transformation occurs. The individual ceases to be a passive waiter, tormented by doubts and fear of loss, and adopts the active position of one who lives fully, enjoys every moment, and feels inner wholeness and self-sufficiency. In this state, not only the nature and quality of relationships that a person attracts into their life change, but the entire spectrum of their life experience undergoes a fundamental transformation. The energetic field radiated by a person serves as a direct and accurate reflection of what is in their inner world. If the dominant elements of their inner vibration are insecurity, deep fear, or a strong sense of neediness, then they will inevitably attract situations and interpersonal connections that precisely match this dominant frequency. The universe, in this context, acts as a giant mirror, flawlessly reflecting the most intimate feelings and sensations residing in the depths of the human soul. The outstanding Swiss psychologist Carl Jung thoroughly described the phenomenon of psychological projection, a mechanism by which inner beliefs, unexpressed emotions, and hidden aspects of personality involuntarily manifest in the external world, being perceived as its inherent characteristics. Consequently, if a person feels insufficiently valuable, or if doubts about their own worth are deeply rooted in their consciousness, they will, sometimes completely unconsciously, transmit this inner insecurity through their non-verbal body language, through voice intonations, through the nature of their actions, and even through the gaze directed at others. However, there is also very encouraging news. Just as low energetic vibration can repel what is desired, raising one's personal frequency can, conversely, attract an entirely different spectrum of experiences and people. The key to this transformational process lies in focusing on one's best embodiment, in consciously being present in the current moment, and in filling one's life with such elevated emotions and thoughts as sincere gratitude, deep joy, and unconditional self-love. Such an inner transformation possesses immense power, as it is not reduced to changing external behavior or blindly following any rules. It is about becoming a person who naturally exudes attractive energy. People are attracted not so much by what a person says or does on a superficial level, but by how they feel in their presence. If anyone has ever met an individual who perhaps was not the most beautiful or charismatic in the world, but possessed undeniable charm, this is because such a person vibrated at a frequency of confidence, authenticity, and wholeness. One of the most effective ways to increase one's own vibration and attract the desired reality is visualization. Carl Gustav Jung meticulously studied the relationship between the unconscious and external reality, explaining that what an individual firmly believes in their consciousness tends to manifest in their life. The human psyche is structured in such a way that it strives for harmony between internal beliefs and external experience. This means that when a person directs their mind to believe in a certain possibility, their subsequent actions and decisions begin to fully align with this deep conviction. When an individual mentally reproduces an ideal scenario filled with deep emotions, their consciousness and bodily reactions begin to function as if this desired reality has already become a fact. Such a process goes beyond a simple mental exercise. It represents an effective method of reprogramming the subconscious, allowing it to accept an updated version of oneself and one's destiny. If a person seeks relationships founded on sincere love, mutual respect, and true intimacy, they are advised to close their eyes and imagine what it feels like to be in such a union. It's crucial not to limit yourself to the external appearance of such relationships, but to focus on internal sensations, how he or she would feel, how a partner would interact with them, what it would be like to receive this affection, what dialogues would occur between them, and what the overall atmosphere of their interaction would be. The The more authentic and vivid this mental picture becomes, the more pronounced its impact will be. However, even more significantly, it's essential to avoid visualization dictated by a state of lack or an unrestrained craving for something. Instead, one should envision what is desired based on an unwavering conviction that it is already a reality and on a deep feeling that everything desired is already moving towards them. This seemingly minor mental recalibration holds colossal significance, as instead of broadcasting deficit, an individual begins to radiate absolute confidence. Another significant element for raising one's individual vibration is the consistent practice of gratitude. Often people exist in a scarcity mindset, constantly focusing on what they lack, what is absent in their lives, or what aspects they wish to change. However, the energy of gratitude operates differently. When a person consciously begins to concentrate on what they already possess and on the positive moments present in their existence, their vibrational frequency undergoes an instantaneous transformation. Gratitude not only fundamentally changes one's perception of the world, but also influences how others perceive them. It becomes a powerful magnet, capable of attracting even more reasons for appreciation into one's life. In the context of interpersonal relationships, if there is a desire for improvement, instead of emphasizing existing problems or desired changes, it is recommended to start appreciating the positive aspects of the interaction. It's important to pay attention to small gestures of affection, moments spent together, and what the other person is already successfully achieving. The continuous cultivation of gratitude creates a powerful energy of abundance and wholeness, which helps strengthen connections, preventing their weakening. Nevertheless, the process of raising personal vibration is not limited to visualization and gratitude. It also includes the crucial ability to release excessive control. The renowned psychoanalyst Carl Jung asserted that much of human suffering stems from an excessive attachment to certain ideas or preconceived expectations. People often cling to their notions of how events should unfold and thereby, unknowingly, block the natural flow of life. When a person is obsessed with the desire for a relationship to develop in a strictly defined way or experiences fear of losing something, they inadvertently generate energy of resistance, and it is this resistance that impedes the natural and harmonious development of events. The concept of letting go is by no means equivalent to surrender or accepting terms that are beneath one's worth. On the contrary, it implies a deep trust that everything destined for a person will arrive at a precisely appointed time and in the most favorable way. This is a path to liberation from the shackles of fear, opening the mind to boundless possibilities, for the universe, as it turns out, is capable of offering plans far exceeding any human imagination. When an individual dares to let go, they thereby create the necessary space for the unimpeded arrival of what truly belongs to them, and in this process, a profound transformation occurs. Actions previously dictated by fear give way to actions based on unwavering trust. Herein lies a fundamental truth of existence. Vibration is a two-way street. It is impossible to expect to receive love, respect, and harmony if one's internal state is permeated by anxiety, insecurity, or despair. Everyone should ask themselves, are they radiating the energy they seek to attract into their life? If a person wishes to build relationships filled with love, they should begin by showing love to themselves. If they crave respect from others, they must first respect themselves in every decision they make. When one seeks a deeper connection with the world, they must ensure they are firmly connected to themselves before making such demands of others. It is in moments when what is desired aligns with the radiated vibration that an energetic field of such power is created that the attraction of everything resonant becomes inevitable. Ultimately, it all comes down to that fundamental truth Carl Jung so persistently emphasized: authenticity is the cornerstone of true attraction. When a person dares to be completely themselves, casting aside fear and masks, not trying to conform to externally imposed expectations, they involuntarily create a natural magnetism that cannot be ignored. Then they don't need to strive to be noticed, don't need to beg for love, or resort to strategies to keep someone close. It's enough to simply strive to be the best version of oneself and allow everything that truly belongs to them to come naturally. And when an individual reaches this level of unwavering confidence and inner completeness, the relationships they attract into their life will be not only more sincere but also deeply aligned with their true essence. For when a person is in harmony with their authentic self, the entire universe seems to conspire in their favor. When an individual begins to live from a state of self-confidence, authenticity, and inner wholeness, something truly amazing happens. They stop worrying about how others perceive them, cease seeking external approval, and begin to genuinely enjoy their own company. And it is at this pivotal moment that a person becomes truly magnetic. Because true attraction does not stem from need or deficit, but from the powerful energy of someone who feels absolutely whole and self-sufficient. Carl Jung, the eminent psychoanalyst, illuminated the concept of shadow integration, a process implying the harmonious acceptance of all aspects of one's nature, both those that elicit approval and those that were previously repressed or rejected. As this deep level of self-knowledge is attained, when an individual ceases to fear their own imperfections and accepts them as an integral part of their unique individuality, they begin to radiate such sincere and authentic energy that others are inevitably drawn to them with irresistible attraction. It is noteworthy that when a person leads a truly authentic life, they cease to attract only superficial connections and instead begin to establish deep, resonant relationships with those who truly align with their inner world. This state of inner wholeness is also reflected in the individual's significantly increased ability to unerringly recognize genuine, unfeigned interest from others. When a person develops strong and stable self-esteem, they stop being swayed by eloquent promises or ephemeral, fleeting gestures alone. Instead, they carefully observe concrete actions, the consistency of deeds, striving to grasp the true intention hidden behind each interaction. Genuine interest always manifests itself through tangible effort, through continuous presence, and through an unwavering constancy that leaves no room for any doubts or ambiguity. This is not characterized by the behavior of someone who at one moment declares their desire to be present and then vanishes without a trace. Nor is it someone who appears in another person's life only when it is exclusively beneficial or convenient for themselves. On the contrary, it is someone who is present by their own sincere desire, because their presence is dictated by an inner aspiration, because the energy emanating from the other person genuinely benefits and inspires them, and finally, because the connection established between them feels absolutely natural and effortless. In this aspect, many people make the common mistake of mistaking a feeling of uncertainty for true love, confusing inner restlessness with magnetic attraction, and the lack of clarity in a relationship with an exciting challenge meant to be overcome. However, when a person achieves inner harmony, realizes their own worth, and is not afraid of solitude, finding pleasure in their own company, they become invulnerable to such delusions. They do not need to prove anything to others or artificially accelerate the development of events, for they deeply understand genuine feelings, sincere interest, and strong, healthy relationships do not require chasing, forcing, or constant struggle. The presence of another person in such an individual's life should always be due to their sincere desire, not someone else's need or pressure. If they are absent, it is not perceived as punishment or an irreplaceable loss, but rather as an opening, providing an opportunity for something more valuable to appear, something precisely aligned with the person's true essence. The realization of this deep truth allows an individual to move through life with unwavering confidence and inner strength. They stop expecting someone else to choose them because they have already chosen themselves. There is no longer a need for external validation, for the person daily recognizes and affirms their own worth. It is this powerful inner energy that fundamentally changes the dynamic of any relationship, making them more harmonious and authentic. The eminent psychologist Carl Jung argued that those aspects of our inner world that we stubbornly reject or refuse to acknowledge gain a hidden but powerful hold, dominating us from the depths of the unconscious. For example, If an individual experiences a deep fear of loneliness, they will inevitably attract relationships into their life where there is a constant threat of loss or breakup. Similarly, when a person doubts their own worth or value, they tend to attract people into their circle who merely reflect and exacerbate this inner insecurity. However, if an individual purposefully cultivates true self-love, if they live radiating an energy of abundance and unwavering confidence, then they begin to attract relationships into their orbit that are a genuine mirror of this inner completeness and harmony. It is in this context that creating inner space plays a truly pivotal role. When a person ceases to obsessively pursue anyone, impose their will, force events, or desperately try to control every detail of an interaction, something truly amazing and liberating occurs. They allow events and relationships to develop naturally, organically. In such an atmosphere, people who genuinely wish to be part of their life will always find a way to stay close. Their presence will be natural and unforced. At the same time, those who were in their circle merely for convenience or personal gain will gradually disappear from view. And this departure will be perceived not as a painful loss, but rather as a welcome and necessary liberation. For true love, genuine emotional connection, and unfeigned respect never require coercion or artificial effort for their existence and flourishing. It should be remembered that the universe possesses an astonishing ability to always respond to the energetic vibration emanating from an individual. If a person vibrates in a state of deep fear or anxiety, they will inevitably attract situations and circumstances into their reality that only amplify and reinforce this fear. Conversely, if their inner energy is tuned to a wave of confidence, self-sufficiency, and inner peace, they will attract experiences and events that fully reflect and confirm this confidence. Thus, instead of agonizing over what external actions to take to elicit someone's interest, it is far more productive and important to turn inward. One should ask, what can I do to raise my own energetic vibration, find harmony and peace with myself, and learn to genuinely enjoy every moment of my life without depending on the approval or presence of anything external? When an individual reaches such a state of internal equilibrium, they essentially cease to function in a paradigm of lack and deficit, transitioning to active existence in the sphere of abundance and fullness. A deep realization comes: there is no longer a need to pursue anyone or anything, for what is truly destined for this person will certainly manifest at the most opportune moment and in the best possible way. This process occurs not as a result of desperate searches or persistent efforts, but because the person's inner energy has already reached complete harmony and alignment with what is desired. It is at this pivotal moment that fundamental changes occur. The person ceases to be a passive expectant, tormented by doubts or fear of loss, transforming into an active participant in life, one who genuinely enjoys every moment and feels a deep, self-sufficient wholeness within themselves. In such a state of deep harmony and confidence, not only does the nature of attracted relationships change radically, but the entire life path of the person acquires a completely different, transformed dimension. True, worthy people begin to be drawn to his/her inner radiance and authentic essence, rather than to external manifestations of difficulties or struggles for existence. Truly significant connections and deep interactions form and blossom naturally, requiring no coercion, artificial acceleration, or excessive effort. Thus, instead of desperately clinging to what is not his/her true path, the person learns to trust the wisdom of the universe, to easily release what is unnecessary, and to gratefully accept all the abundant gifts generously prepared by the universe. For as soon as an individual fully realizes their own true worth, ceases to be tormented by doubts about their abilities, and begins to exist from an energy of deep confidence and unconditional self-love, his/her life ceases to be a continuous struggle and transforms into a harmonious, natural flow of favorable experiences, encounters with resonant people, and moments that perfectly resonate with his/her true, authentic essence. It is in this union, in this synchronization of one's inner energy with his/her true individuality, that the true magic and greatest power of being lies. When a person gains deep inner confidence, they no longer feel the need for external approval from others, because they find within themselves the validation of their own worth that they previously sought in vain externally. With the advent of this state, the entire dynamic of their interpersonal relationships is radically transformed. The individual's actions are no longer dictated by the fear of being rejected or the anxiety of losing someone. Instead, they stem from a serene calm based on a deep understanding. What is truly meant for them will never have to be artificially forced. The eminent psychologist Carl Jung, in his time, emphasized the exceptional importance of individuation, the process of becoming a whole and authentic being who achieves self-sufficiency and does not depend on external approval to define their own identity. When an individual reaches this elevated level of consciousness, they no longer need to cling to anyone for a sense of security, for true security now emanates from their own inner world. They stop obsessively pondering how to please someone, for they grasp the fundamental truth. What truly matters is not pleasing absolutely everyone, but being sincere and authentic, thereby attracting into their life those whose essence deeply resonates with their own. It is this understanding that leads a person to one of the most liberating insights they can grasp. Not all people are destined to remain in their life permanently, and that is absolutely natural. When an individual genuinely loves themselves, when they live guided by inner confidence and maintain harmonious alignment with their true self, they begin to calmly accept the fact that certain people will be present in their life only temporarily, that some relationships are not eternal, and that the ability to let go is also an integral and important part of the overall life process. However, there is a fundamental difference. When a person allows something to leave, driven by genuine love rather than acute need, this process is not accompanied by bitterness or suffering. On the contrary, it is filled with deep gratitude for the experience and an unwavering conviction that the future will bring even more favorable events. The individual ceases to fear loss because they come to the realization of a simple truth. It is impossible to lose what truly belongs to their essence. Moreover, paradoxically, when a person lives with such inner confidence, they begin to attract significantly more harmonious and prosperous relationships. This happens because others intuitively sense the person is with them not out of a need to fill any void, but by free, conscious choice. This profound difference between someone who wishes to be present by their own free will and someone who seeks to compensate for an internal deficiency is subconsciously perceived by everyone. When an individual aligns with such a worldview, patterns in interpersonal interactions that were previously completely invisible become clear to them. They begin to understand distinctly that true interest is expressed not in elaborate phrases or unsubstantiated statements, but exclusively in consistent and unwavering actions. True intimacy, in turn, never provokes continuous anxiety or tormenting hesitation. Instead, it brings deep peace of mind and unwavering conviction. And genuine attachment does not speculate on someone's insecurity. On the contrary, it elevates the person, helping them feel even more harmonious and confident in their own essence. Relationships stemming from this deep source of energy fundamentally differ from conventional models, for they lack the fear of loss or the obsessive need for dominance. There is no room for hidden maneuvers or manipulative scenarios, only two individuals who consciously decide on a shared path because they harmoniously complement, mutually strengthen, and experience the deepest mutual respect for each other. And when a person experiences this kind of unity, they realize that all previous notions of love and partnership, which existed before reaching this level of awareness, appeared to be nothing more than a mirage, rooted in emotional dependence and inner insecurity. As Carl Gustav Jung asserted, the human unconscious significantly influences many of its decisions, often unconsciously, for the individual. If, deep within their soul, a person fears being alone, they inevitably begin to attract people into their life who confirm and exacerbate this fear. Similarly, if an individual is convinced of their own inadequacy, they will attract relationships that serve as a mirror of this inner conviction. However, if a person becomes an individual who is self-sufficient, trusts the natural flow of existence, lives in harmony with themselves, demonstrating authenticity and self-love, then the surrounding world begins to mirror this inner metamorphosis. It is at this moment that true magic occurs, when a person ceases their actions dictated by anxiety and begins to act from a state of inner fullness. The category of people appearing in their life undergoes a radical change. Those who previously sought only to exploit their energetic resource, who were present exclusively for convenience, or who manipulated their inner insecurity, gradually disappear from their circle. In their place, the individual begins to attract people on a similar vibrational frequency, who genuinely value them as a person and are ready to create something truly meaningful, free from any fears. Surprisingly, this principle extends far beyond the realm of romantic relationships. It is also reflected in friendships, professional contacts, and, in essence, in how the world reacts to the individual. When a person radiates inner peace and self-love, the entire universe, it seems, responds to this deep vibration. If an individual is deeply aware of their inner worth, existence confirms this recognition in countless ways and unexpected opportunities. Therefore, instead of agonizing over someone else's indifference or lack of expected attention, instead of fixating on trying to please someone or endlessly analyzing mixed signals that might disturb inner peace, it is far more productive to turn inward with deeper and more significant questions. Is he, she, truly living in accordance with their highest potential? How harmonious is their existence with their own well-being? Does he, she radiate the confidence that attracts what is meant, without the need for struggle or obsessive pursuit? When an individual can genuinely answer these self-addressed questions affirmatively, when his, her existence truly stems from this deep state of inner confidence and unconditional self-love, then a truly amazing transformation occurs. He, she, ceases to feel an internal need for anything external to achieve a state of true happiness. It is at this pivotal moment that life's most valuable gifts begin to flow effortlessly and naturally into his, her being. For the true power of attraction does not lie in striving to change one's true nature to meet someone else's expectations or fit into someone else's life. On the contrary, it is rooted in the ability to be so authentic, so whole, so true to one's unique essence, that the people destined for this connection simply cannot remain indifferent to the radiance of his, her unique light. When a person adopts such a way of life, the fear of loss leaves them, for they realize that what truly belongs to them does not require coercion or struggle. Such an inner transformation is akin to a deep liberation. All anxiety disappears when someone decides to distance themselves, because the individual clearly understands the presence or absence of another is not a measure of their own worth. Attention ceases to be directed outwards and returns to the only source where it should always have resided, within oneself. Consequently, the inner dynamic of interpersonal relationships transforms in a completely natural way. There is no longer a need to meticulously analyze every received message, every fleeting gesture, or every spoken word in a futile search for confirmation of interest or affection. Instead, the person simply begins to enjoy the current moment, fully immersed in the present, without a shadow of apprehension about the future. The worry about whether someone will stay or leave also disappears, for they know with certainty what truly resonates with their soul and inner world will never require artificial holding or coercion. And the most astonishing thing in this process is that, by achieving such a level of healthy, conscious detachment, a person paradoxically begins to attract others with even greater force. Their inner energy acquires truly magnetic properties. There is an undeniable allure to a person who exudes deep self-confidence, who moves through life with unwavering trust in their own path, who doesn't strive to convince anyone of their worth or to impress, but simply exists in their authentic, unadulterated state. This marks a fundamental transformation. Instead of actively seeking anyone's approval, the individual begins to emanate a presence that effortlessly attracts others. As the distinguished psychologist Carl Jung asserted, the deeper layers of the human psyche instinctively respond to authenticity. True attractiveness does not stem from clever tactics or manipulative ploys, but from a genuine harmony with oneself, a sense of inner wholeness. This is not about calculated distancing or feigned aloofness. Rather, it's about cultivating such a strong and unconditional self-love that being alone is never perceived as need or lack, but rather as fertile ground for self-development and inner fulfillment. From such a state of inner harmony, interpersonal relationships take on an entirely different trajectory. Their foundation becomes not the fear of loss, but the sincere joy of sharing. The presence of another person ceases to be a vital necessity and transforms into a conscious choice. The individual stops living in a state of constant expectation, meticulously analyzing every interaction in an attempt to gain external validation of their worth, for deep within, they already recognize their self-sufficiency. This is where a striking phenomenon unfolds. As inner energy transforms, external interaction dynamics inevitably change. Individuals whose interest lays solely in feeding their own ego through others' attention gradually fade away, as they no longer find the dependency that allowed them to exert control. Conversely, people with genuine intentions, those capable of truly discerning inner value, are drawn with increasing power, for they recognize in such a person a unique essence, a self-sufficient light that needs no one's approval to shine brightly. The unique quality of a person's presence is not conveyed through spoken words, but felt on a deep, intuitive level. Those around unfailingly recognize when an individual walks through life with unwavering self-assurance, when their inner energy doesn't radiate pleas for attention or a craving for approval, but instead emanates a sincere enjoyment of being. It is this inner strength that becomes the true magnet of attraction, not cunning manipulations, not calculated strategies to evoke interest, but the unshakable authenticity of a person deeply aware of their own value and expressing this understanding in every choice, every action, every movement. From this perspective, interpersonal relationships transform, ceasing to be an arena of struggle where one must relentlessly fight for affection, attention, or commitment. Instead, they become genuine spaces of mutual connection, where each participant is present not out of an inner need to fill emotional gaps, but out of a sincere desire to be part of that union. When one is in such a state of inner fullness, the fear of loss disappears, for a profound realization emerges. What is truly meant for them, what genuinely resonates with their soul, will inevitably remain. Interactions born from this self-sufficient state are fundamentally different. They are perceived as more effortless, more organic, free from the burdensome weight of insecurity or anxiety. There is no longer any need to prove anything, to force anything, to chase anything. Everything unfolds with a natural harmony that once seemed an unattainable dream, but now makes absolute sense. This is where the true power of being in harmony with one's authentic self manifests. One ceases to be someone who passively waits, who settles for crumbs of attention, who builds their existence in complete dependence on others' reactions. They transform into someone who consciously makes choices, who attracts what is desired from a deep inner confidence, who moves through life with the unwavering conviction that one should never chase anything or anyone. And at this pivotal moment, everything undergoes radical change. Anxiety dissipates, doubts vanish, fear ceases to be an insurmountable obstacle, for one finally understands that the only validation of true value is that which is born from within. And when this profound realization becomes an integral part of one's being, the entire surrounding world responds to this renewed energy in the most surprising and natural way. At this very moment, existence ceases to be perceived as a continuous struggle and begins to feel like a constant, harmonious flow of experiences that arrive at the perfect time, requiring no excessive effort or desperate attempts. For when one vibrates in a state of unconditional self-love, life invariably returns this feeling in ways they never even dared to dream of. The perception of existence undergoes profound changes. Relationships, once a tangled labyrinth filled with uncertainty and strategic moves, now resemble a smooth dance, where every movement is made with unwavering confidence. The energetic focus is no longer directed at the fear of loss, but concentrated on the firm conviction that everything true and right will enter one's life without exhausting effort. Connections born from this state of inner fullness are fundamentally different. Instead of encounters filled with anxiety and insecurity, interactions become light, natural, freed from the burden of preconditions that previously created pressure and imbalance. The need for anything fades, and with it disappears the tendency to meticulously dissect every word, every gesture, every absence. In their place comes a feeling of complete serenity, an unshakable conviction that what is meant to be will simply manifest. And it is precisely when one moves with this unique energy that their state becomes evident to those around them. There is no inner tension in their manner of speaking, no hopelessness in their gaze, no anxiety in their waiting. They transform into someone who does not require external attention to feel their own worth, for their value is already recognized deep within their being. And the most surprising thing is that the very moment this confidence is genuinely affirmed, the attention of those around them intensifies without visible effort. The reason for this is simple. Lack repels while fullness attracts. One who feels incomplete and desperately seeks another person to fill their inner void radiates an energy of need that, instead of attracting, repels. But one who feels self-sufficient and complete and offers their presence from a fullness of spirit becomes attractive because their energy does not seek to acquire but strives to give. The renowned thinker Carl Jung once introduced the concept of the shadow, that deeply hidden unconscious side of the human psyche which is often repressed or neglected, yet enormously impacts the perception and formation of our reality. It is often observed how many individuals, in striving to create partnerships, essentially act from this very shadow. Their actions are dictated by unresolved inner conflicts, old emotional traumas, and behavioral patterns established in childhood. These ingrained beliefs sometimes instill in them the false notion that true love is necessarily accompanied by suffering, that sincere affection requires constant effort to win, or that a partner's attention must be begged for rather than freely received. However, when an individual undertakes deep inner work aimed at integrating their own shadow, becoming aware of and accepting those aspects of personality that were previously repressed, and brings these limiting, destructive patterns to conscious awareness, an entirely different way of perceiving and experiencing love opens up to them. This is a state where fear and attachment are absent, where independence and a sense of security are harmoniously intertwined. It is at this stage that the old cycle is broken. The individual ceases to seek partnerships merely to fill inner voids or quell self-doubt. Now, their choice is based on deep clarity and an unwavering conviction that truly healthy love does not generate doubt and anxiety, but rather brings peace. And the most astonishing paradox of this transformative process is that as soon as one stops desperately needing love, it is precisely at that moment that they begin to receive it in abundance. This happens not because they actively seek or ask for it, but because their inner energetic vibration naturally attracts what is desired. This transformation, though seemingly subtle at first glance, possesses colossal power. Instead of agonizing over whether someone desires your presence or attention, one begins to question the deep compatibility of a potential partner with the lifestyle and value system they are carefully building for themselves. Instead of expending energy trying to meet others' demands or to be enough for another, the focus shifts to one's own inner state, to achieving self-sufficiency and completeness within oneself. And instead of adapting to the expectations of others, the individual now consciously chooses to surround themselves with those who are already naturally attuned to their true essence, without requiring any changes or compromises to their unique individuality. Relationships arising from such a life perspective take on an entirely different nature. In them, the need to chase disappears, power manipulations are absent, and the oppressive feeling of anxiety while waiting for a message or a desired sign of interest vanishes. In their place come harmony and fluidity, deep mutual respect, and genuine responsiveness. Every interaction becomes effortless, for there is a complete absence of the burden of pretending to be someone one is not, or the desire to impose or accelerate something not predetermined by the natural course of events. Achieving this state transforms the very perception of existence, making it qualitatively different. Waking daily, accompanied by an unwavering certainty in one's self-sufficiency for happiness, represents one of the most liberating experiences available to a person. The individual stops participating in the exhausting race for someone who could complete them, for they recognize their inherent wholeness and completeness. There are no more exhausting attempts to hold on to or develop connections lacking natural growth, because the understanding comes, what is truly meant to be enters life without effort or struggle. From this stage onward, love ceases to be perceived as something requiring conquest or battle, transforming into a phenomenon one simply allows to enter their existence. Its arrival is not driven by deficit or need, but by pure, sincere joy. It does not stem from fears, but is born from deep inner confidence, and not from lack, but from a feeling of absolute fullness of being. It is in this special state that true magic unfolds, not through deliberate efforts to attract what is desired, but because one's inner energy naturally transforms into a powerful magnet, attracting everything that harmonizes with their best, most authentic version. The essence of this metamorphosis is not in seeking external popularity or striving for universal attention, but in the profound inner balance that is established when one finally realizes that everything necessary is already within them. External validation loses its power. Former expectations that shaped interpersonal relationships dissipate, giving way to an inexpressible feeling of complete liberation. The fear of being abandoned disappears because the highest commitment one can make is to oneself. Anxiety about future days vanishes, for there is complete trust in the natural course of being. Such inner conviction transforms how one interacts with the world. Choices are no longer dictated by need or the urgent necessity to be accepted. They stem from inner clarity and deep self-worth. When a person enters one's orbit and their presence enriches, one enjoys it without a shadow of fear. If someone withdraws instead of desperately holding on, one easily lets go, for there is an unwavering certainty. What truly resonates with one's essence will inevitably find a way to remain. It is at this moment that interpersonal relationships cease to be a source of torment, transforming into invaluable opportunities for personal growth. Every interaction is experienced with ease, without the desire for total control, without the obsessive urge to immediately assign it a specific status. One learns to fully enjoy the present moment, unburdened by worries about the future. Uncertainty no longer torments, for there is complete trust in one's own intuition and the wisdom of the chosen life path. Those around inevitably perceive this transformation, even if one does not utter a word. There is a clear distinction between someone desperately seeking external attention and someone simply enjoying their own being, making no demands on the world around them. True self-assurance manifests in an individual's posture, in their gaze, in their manner of conversation, and in the energy they emanate. Unbeknownst to them, their presence acquires a special weight, not because they strive to impress, but because they radiate an authentic glow that needs no external validation. Carl Jung, a distinguished thinker, dedicated his works to the pure concept of self-integration, a path leading to the achievement of one's own wholeness, where every facet of one's being is accepted without a shadow of fear or inner rejection. This state of deep integration finds its embodiment in an individual's daily existence, without inner resistance, without attempts at self-deception, without the need to fit into externally imposed frameworks. Instead of adjusting their true nature to external expectations in pursuit of acceptance, they begin to attract people and experiences that truly resonate with their inner harmony. It is at this moment that an amazing metamorphosis occurs. The very concept of love transforms. It is no longer a tiresome search, but becomes a genuine, joyful discovery. One does not need to chase it or artificially force events. They simply allow themselves to follow an inner flow, and in this natural movement, everything true and valuable comes on its own. Relationships born in this beneficial atmosphere are not founded on the fear of being alone or the craving for external approval, but on a sincere desire to share oneself without losing one's individuality. Interactions with others begin to serve as a mirror of one's inner transformation. If previously one sometimes agreed to conditions clearly not corresponding to their true worth, now they establish healthy personal boundaries without hesitation or guilt. If once they were tormented by the fear of loneliness, now they find true enjoyment in their own company as never before. If previously they settled for little, now they grant their personal space only to those who genuinely value their presence and uniqueness. Global changes occur precisely because the person themselves has changed. Existence ceases to be an endless series of dashed hopes or discordant relationships, transforming into a fascinating journey of continuous discoveries, where every experience serves to enrich and every lesson learned steadily brings one closer to becoming the most complete and realized version of themselves. When one lives from this deep and unwavering confidence, they realize that they were never incomplete. On the contrary, they always possessed sufficient inner strength and value. They simply needed to remember this truth, which always resided within. Such confidence transforms into a guiding beacon, a light that illuminates every decision made, directing it not out of fear or doubt, but out of an absolute conviction in one's own worth. No longer are there questions about personal value. The need to wait for external recognition disappears. For deep within, one already clearly knows who they are and what they truly deserve. This is not a transformation that can be imitated or forced. It is born from painstaking and deep inner work, connected with letting go of outdated beliefs and allowing oneself to become precisely who one is meant to be. Relying on this powerful inner energy, the very concept of love ceases to appear as a complex game of strategies or an exhausting struggle to be chosen. Anxiety about conforming to others' standards or expectations disappears because one understands that what truly matters is achieving harmony and peace with oneself. They do not strive to impress others, do not try to prove anything, they simply abide in their authentic truth. And it is this genuineness and naturalness that truly attracts others to them. It is at this pivotal moment that many people begin to realize the profound transformations occurring in their interpersonal relationships. Dynamics that once seemed tangled and complicated gain astonishing clarity. One ceases to feel the urgent need to convince anyone of their worth, for the understanding comes, whoever genuinely desires to be present in their life will manifest this without coercion, without the need to constantly attract attention or seek recognition. Manipulative emotional games lose their former magnetism as the focus of attention shifts from fleeting, superficial contacts that merely flatter self-esteem to deep, genuine connections capable of nourishing and enriching the inner world. The renowned psychoanalyst Carl Jung explained that a significant portion of human suffering stems from identifying with a truncated, limited version of oneself, a version formed under the influence of fears, deep insecurity, and externally dictated expectations. However, when one gathers the courage to let go of this artificial construct and begin to live from their true, purest essence, life itself responds to this completely differently, demonstrating amazing changes. Suddenly, those who previously thoughtlessly commanded their time and played with their feelings discreetly disappear from their circle, giving way to those who genuinely value their presence and uniqueness. Such a process of inner harmonization and alignment by no means implies that one's path will be completely free of difficulties or moments of doubt. However, it grants them a profound ability to unerringly recognize when something in their life ceases to align with what they truly deserve. Their intuition becomes significantly sharper, their perception of the surrounding world gains unprecedented clarity, and making important decisions simplifies to the extreme. If certain relationships constantly generate feelings of anxiety and unease, one no longer seeks far-fetched justifications for their preservation or explanations for their negative influence. If someone's behavior causes them to doubt the sincerity of their interest, they stop meticulously analyzing every detail in an attempt to find an answer that, in essence, is already known to their inner self. From this decisive moment, inner peace and harmony become the new, natural norm of existence for the individual. They no longer agree to interpersonal dynamics that exhaust them, draining their vital energy, are not content with meager crumbs of affection or attention, and do not make futile attempts to change another person so that they can give what they are inherently unable or unwilling to offer. It is noteworthy that this transformation does not stem from arrogance or vanity, but from the deepest and most sincere self-acceptance, from an unwavering conviction that one deserves relationships where they can express themselves authentically, without fears or doubts. Having reached this inner state, the individual feels how much in their existence becomes significantly simpler. Life ceases to be a continuous search for answers to questions about others' feelings and evaluations, turning into a fascinating exploration of one's own sensations and perception of the world. The realization comes that love is not something that needs to be diligently chased, but an inner source that is already present within and which, expanding outward, naturally attracts precisely what resonates with the new, increased energy. Thus, without coercion, without complex strategies, and without past fear, one begins to live their life with a degree of freedom that previously seemed completely unattainable, for they finally understand that the essence was never about striving to be enough for someone else, but only about remembering that they were always complete and self-sufficient for themselves. From this renewed worldview, one's very existence is filled with entirely different colors and meaning. Everything that previously provoked anxiety and created confusion is now perceived with almost perfect clarity and understanding. All grounds for doubt about how highly others value them disappear, because within themselves the individual has built an unbreakable fortress of confidence. They unconditionally recognize their worth and dignity, and therefore are not willing to compromise by settling for anything less than what they are rightfully owed. The energy of need and despair that once weighed them down completely dissipates, giving way to a deep feeling of inner peace and self-sufficient power that does not depend on external circumstances or anyone's approval. In such a state of inner wholeness, interpersonal relationships cease to be an arena for insecurity and unfulfilled expectations. Every interaction feels effortless, free from pressure and the need to prove anything. One stops meticulously analyzing every message, every gesture, every silence, because they come to understand what is true does not need deciphering. Genuine interest is felt intuitively, it is not chased. True affection flows freely, it is not forced. The natural attraction that now emanates from the individual stems not from efforts to be noticed, but from a deep calm based on the awareness of one's own self-sufficiency and the absence of a need for external approval. This energy possesses magnetism, for it does not desperately seek attention, it simply exists. Carl Jung spoke of individuation, a fundamental process of becoming a whole person, independent of external projections and imposed expectations. In this state, the necessary people come into one's life naturally, attracted by the authenticity they radiate. Unbeknownst to them, the individual intuitively begins to filter out connections that truly enrich their being. Those who were only there when they needed something, who manipulated others' insecurity, who gave the minimum while expecting to receive the maximum, gradually disappear from their circle. This happens not because they are actively pushed away, but because one's energy no longer resonates with their vibrations. Ultimately, only those relationships remain where reciprocity, mutual respect, and a genuine foundation of admiration and deep understanding prevail. Such a transformation does not herald a complete absence of hardships or a guarantee of absolute perfection in all spheres of existence, nor does it exclude the possibility of encountering emotional challenges. From this point forward, an individual gains profound wisdom, enabling them to unerringly determine the true value of events and people, distinguishing them from what does not harmonize with their way of life. Inner intuition transforms into a reliable guide and a faithful companion. Instead of exhausting attempts to artificially push forward relationships lacking prospects, or futile efforts to reshape another person to fit their ideals, the individual learns to fully rely on the conviction that everything true and authentic will inevitably reveal itself naturally. A deep and conscious self-love, carefully nurtured, now finds its reflection in every aspect of the individual's existence. The compulsive need to fill inner voids with useless, fleeting connections or the pursuit of instant, transient attention disappears. From now on, every interaction, every connection that a person consciously chooses gains profound meaning, true purpose, and undeniable value. It is noteworthy that the less there is an internal need to seek someone to complete oneself, the more frequently and naturally truly valuable and profound individuals appear on one's life path. This occurs not through deliberate efforts to attract them, but because the person's inner energy is already fully attuned to the level and quality of relationships they have always deserved. The usual dynamics of relationships undergo radical changes. The person is no longer the individual who anxiously awaits every message, agrees to compromising, half-hearted expressions of affection, or abandons their own principles due to deep-seated fears of being alone. Instead, they transform into someone who consciously chooses their path, makes decisions based on unwavering inner confidence, and deeply realizes that their own presence is a priceless gift to be shared exclusively with those who are truly capable of appreciating and respecting it. At this pivotal moment, the very concept of love transforms, acquiring an entirely different, profound dimension. It ceases to be an exhausting search, a constant struggle for attention, or a complex game full of uncertainty. Instead, it manifests as something utterly simple, crystal clear, and absolutely natural. All need for manipulation, meticulously calculating every step, or anxiously waiting for anything disappears, because when an individual is in complete harmony with their true essence, genuine, authentic love enters their life effortlessly, without a shadow of fear, and without any doubts. This very approach allows a person to live in a state of true fullness. They no longer cling to what is objectively not meant for them, do not deplete their vital energy on circumstances that do not contribute to their growth and enrichment, and most importantly, do not abandon their authentic self by trying to conform to others' expectations or fit into someone else's life. Now, each new day is perceived as a conscious choice, a powerful affirmation that the individual deserves the very best, and that this best will inevitably manifest in due time, often in the most unpredictable and truly magical ways. For when a person sincerely trusts their inner wisdom and the cosmic order of the universe, everything that previously seemed like an insoluble puzzle or an incredibly complex obstacle suddenly becomes remarkably clear and easily attainable. Thus, when an individual recognizes their own significance, when they cease to be guided by a state of scarcity and begin to act based on an unwavering confidence in their completeness, the entire surrounding world immediately responds to this powerful inner energy. There is no longer any need for them to pursue anything or anyone, for they know with certainty what is truly meant for them will manifest on its own, effortlessly, naturally, at the most ideal and opportune moment. They have understood that true love is not an object of pursuit or supplication, but becomes a generous gift stemming from inner fulfillment and abundance. That genuine attraction arises not from skillful manipulation of someone's consciousness, but from the absolute authenticity of one's own presence. That true magic happens when an individual releases total control, trusts themselves, and opens their life to amazing, unpredictable surprises. It is at this pivotal moment that a radical transformation occurs. A person ceases to be someone who settles for less, unworthy of their true value, or someone who craves external validation to feel their own significance. From now on, they recognize themselves as a self-sufficient and complete entity, making decisions based on deep self-love and possessing enough self-respect not to linger in places where their energetic contribution is not properly valued. And it is precisely in such a state of inner balance and harmony that everything attracted into their life can be nothing but even more perfect and favorable.